everybody, so welcome to this webinar. I'm happy to be here. My name is Gabriele Venier from Visup. So I'm going to talk about data visualization. So it's in particular we work on what we call data experience, because we believe that data visualization it's a just narrower vision of what the data visualization could be. So I'm just talking about very briefly about data experience. So data experience is a mix. It's composed of a mix of skills related not only to data visualization but also to technical aspects. So, for instance, software development and design. So visual design, user experience, and interaction, which are very important in the definition of what we call a data experience. So today I'd like to share what's in my experience are 5, let's say, ingredients that can be an effective way to access to data in a visual way. I'll start from the first one, which is about the understanding of your data. This is a very important point because I believe that it's the in a way the building block of what it can be created through visualization tools. So understanding what kind of data we have, how they are interrelated among each other, is the first thing to do before facing any data experience project. So what happens if we miss this aspect is that we are creating something that cannot be reliable and not be in line with, of course, the kind of information we have in our hands. So the next point is about knowing the audience. So the previous one was about the data. The other is about knowing what kind of users are going to use our solution. So understanding their use cases, their specific needs are very important aspects and must be kept into consideration in order to avoid some situation where the user is disappointed or cannot really get into understand the data. So the third point it's what it's a crucial point because it combines the previous two. So on one hand, we should know very well our data, and on the other side, we need to map all the different needs from the users in order to have clear in mind what our target is. So we call it the job to be done. It's not something that we invented. It's a methodology which is very important and very helpful. So it helps us keep in mind the goal and where we want to go. Next. So we typically try to avoid the useless effects. So sometimes, at least today, there are a lot of visual effects that can be applied into this kind of solutions. But most of the time, we prefer to avoid and to focus on the result. Also, in the identification of the charts, there are some aspects that are very important because each chart responds to specific needs. And so we need to thoroughly identify which chart performs the best. Or if any chart is available, we can create our own. We need to think of the context because sometimes our solution is accessed through mobile devices mainly, and so it's important for this reason to design first of all for the mobile rather than on desktop. Another point is really trying to create engagement with your target users. because we need really that they can in some way engage with the data and create understanding, a great understanding of and create insight of this data. Okay, there are other things like testing that are of course perhaps more technical ones, and other things we have learned in the past. But I believe these are points that are quite important. So the fourth point is about to make it beautiful, in the sense that the interface should avoid the overload of information. We try to simplify and to have a user interface that can breathe in some way. Of course, it's important to define the right combination of colors, fonts, and signs in relation to the architecture, to the information architecture. In particular, we need to prioritize all those features that are demanded by our user. Fifth point about the shareability. So it's not just sharing through the social networks, which is a good thing because it can spread the voice about our project, but also because we want our specific insights that we can figure out from our tool to be shared among a community, for instance, among some colleagues, and so that the discussion is continuous and does not break through this process. Okay, these are the 5 things that we believe are essential for defining a good data experience. So I'm just briefly go through some examples that we selected among different ones, but these ones in particular are good because they deal in some way with categories. And so for the internet governance, I think could be inspiring because they can reflect some use cases that are typical of when dealing with this kind of data. So okay, I grouped these examples in three groups. So the first one related to a clever use of interactivity, and I'm trying to go through the examples right now, so just let me know if you can see. Sorry, yes, here. I hope you can see my screen. So this is a visualmap.jp. It's an example where you can have a tree map where there are different news that have been organized in different categories. So in the menu underneath, you can see, for instance, world, national, business, and this kind of representation can be adapted according to the specific need of the user. So in this case, I can remove the word category. I'm just going to reload it. And you can add some filters here. It's going to reload. And so I'm customizing it, and it just provides a good overview about what's happening in the world of news according to my selection. It's interesting to see about this example that is quite old, actually. It's from 2004, but it's really a good example on how the tool has been organized to manage all this kind of information and to provide a good overview about this data. Okay, I'm going through, I'm always talking about interactivity, so the clever interactivity in the sense that these tools are designed interactive in some way. And let's see this one also. Okay, there is. It is possible to go through in this example a lot of events taken from Wikipedia. Sorry, I'm just switching off the sound. Okay. So you have, in this case, 400 years of events. You have a representation in a timeline, which perhaps by sharing the example later, you can see and try this. It's very, very effective. And so by switching the time interval, you can visualize in the timeline all those events. And you have some categories which are provided on the left-hand side, left-hand panel, and you can switch on and off the different categories you want to browse actually. So it's really proactive in the sense that allows you a great customization of the experience, and it's very well designed. Okay, I'm going through the other one. Here it's a very simple example, but I like just the combination of some visual solution that has been found here. For instance, we have different categories, and through this visualization, we want to communicate which trees are the presence of the trees in the different areas of New York. So we have these bars, which are stacked bars, and which provides the types of trees that are present in these areas. So an overview and also a good comparison among the different areas. And as well, you have a double point of access here. You have an access from the bottom side, so by selecting the kind of tree, or from the single area. And everything is highlighted and synchronized among the different areas. Okay, I'm going on with another example. So this example is taken from the New York Times. It's very famous. It's I think it's almost 4 years old now, but it's very well done. And the particularity of this example is that uses time to communicate how the data changes through transition. So in this way, I'm just showing you how it works. You are switching among different kinds of visualization and seeing the same data, which is combined in different views. And by switching through these views, you can really follow and have a smooth effect about how the data is organized. This last one, for instance, is just you have the different expenses that are grouped into different categories. In this case, health and human services, social security, defense, and so on. And you have the same items that really are always there, available, and you can switch and see how they change in the screen position. So you normally have different areas, different pages, and you lose the context of each page by passing from one to the other. So this is an important thing. So by using the transition, the animation, to create to maintain the understanding of the data. Taking another example, which goes into the same direction, and it's also very, very interesting. So here you start from a table, or in this case of superheroes. So it's an open data from different publishers. And the good thing is that starting from this boring table, you can really go through. Okay, so still sound here, but let's switch it off if I can. No. The good thing is that you can customize the visualization. And you see that everything is made in real time, and you can you can change the visualization. So you can pass, for instance, from a bubble to a scatter plot, and going back and change the properties of this visualization. This is another example that's really is focused on the animation to communicate data. Okay, again, I go through this other example, which provides a map and is also here related to a timeline where there are events about the micrometeorites. It's a project that takes data of the last 500 years or more in terms of meteorites, and you can just start play with it, and you can see how the data is visualized over time. And it's something that can really communicate and create a story out of it. Okay, the last example I wanted to share is this one, which is very simple. This is taken from D3's a long list of examples. D3 is it's a very popular framework for visualization. It's used really by everyone. It's been developed by the Stanford University. I wanted to share this visualization because I believe that it can be really powerful evolutions in terms of data analysis and creating those kind of insight. I'm just wanted to show you how it works. So here you have different views of the same data. So we are watching the same data into this grid, into these cells. And when you interact with one cell, so I say the left box, you can select the data, and you can see all this data selected among all the others. So this is a very effective way to compare the data according to different, for instance, categories, or to different geographical news coming from different geographical areas. And yeah, this is the final example I really wanted to share. It's not perhaps very pertinent to categorical data, but it can be evolved towards that direction. Okay, let me go back to the presentation here. So, okay, we just seen all the data, and yeah, I believe that's it. Thank you very much for your time.
Good afternoon to everybody. Thank you for being here today. Okay, my name is Meijueiro from CTIC, and as Kasia said, we are responsible for the technical development of the observatory tool from the GIPO project. I'm going to share with you what kind of data visualizations we are beginning to design, and these are driven by the kind of data that we can share, because the observatory collects many types of items of information from different sources, and mainly these are different kind of sources, and also kind of structures of information that contains these items of information. We have news articles, announcements, reports, blog posts. We scan a lot of sources and we get different kind of contents. And as I said, these contents, these articles and news and so on, comes from all the regions of the world. We have, as you can see here, sources from Africa, from Asia, Europe, from all over the world, daily collected in a regular basis. And this information, this tool, what is special about this tool is that it automatically reads the content of this information and classify it and applies some kind of tags, some keywords to the information, trying to understand automatically without the intervention of any human, what is talking about in the field of internet governance. So we classify automatically the information in different, what we call aspects. Maybe you call it issues. Okay, it's only one aspect of a global thing that is the internet governance. So we have a technical aspect, social, economic, security, and we can have many other aspects. This is only a sample search, for instance, trying to show some items talking about net neutrality, as you can see in the picture. Okay, so this is the kind of information that we gather. So what can do with this information in the sense of trying to graphically display it, because otherwise we have a useful tool that we can search with a powerful search with some kind of filtering by aspect or region and so on. But how do we can represent it visually? Okay, what we can do with this kind of data that is textual data, is categorical data. We are not counting indicators. We are not getting number of connections per country or things like that. No, we have some news items, some events, some documents that we can scan and say, okay, here are some organizations, some events, some issues that we can count. We can count about these items. Okay, we can count, for instance, by sources of origin. The number of content coming from specific world region or even a country, we have the data. Or for instance, as we read the content, automatically read the content, and our tool understand what it's talking about and what regions is the content dealing with, not what the content is sources from a region, but the specific content of information. The news article is talking about something that is happening in, for instance, 3 regions of the world and 2 countries, even though the source of information came from a single point. Okay, so we also can count by regions being impacted. We also can count how many items of information are discussing a specific issue or more than one issue related with internet government, and so on. We can count things that we have in the tool. Okay, how can we represent it in a very simple way, not so complicated or so complex on a visual appealing as Gabriel showed us? Very simple way. We can, if we have a location, we know the region, the country of the source of information, we can represent it in a map and say, okay, 100% of items related with that issue came from these 3 regions, or only 20% of items came from these sources located in those regions. This could, I imagine, solve a simple question that is, okay, what was the debate, or what is the debate about a related issue? Because information is coming from a source, so it means that someone is trying to solve it or trying to debate about it. It's only an example of a question. Another question could be, okay, but which regions were impacted? These documents are talking about what regions? What is happening in what regions? Okay, we can show a tree map, for instance, saying, okay, it's different where the information is coming from. It's different from what regions or countries are being discussed in that information. And this is an example of a tree map showing that representation. Another representation showing also a tree map. Okay, different issues that are being discussed. Okay, what kind of things are being discussed, the more and the less? Okay, for instance, we can see here that technical structure and resources, things dealing with that issue, that group of issues are the most discussed, the most debated, for instance. But these are only some possibilities that we could imagine. But the fact is that these data visualizations are for solving some questions that are your questions. You have to identify it, you have to help us and identify knowledge gaps and what things do you think that we can solve with the kind of data that we gather. We will aid choosing the data. We have those metadata, those keywords that we can we can query and lead to insight. Finally, what type of visualization would best present the answer for you? As Gabriel said, not every chart is useful for every kind of thing. So we have to balance between form and function. We can use this kind of library, as Gabriel said. The three is a common library, and we have a different kind of data visualizations that we can. And finally, we provide, as Gabriel showed us, the interaction. We can do a general overview of a group of items, zoom in and out for some items of interest, then filtering out uninteresting items, and obviously, finally, get details on demand on items when needed. That's all for now. I hope you have many questions, and I'm available to solve it. Thank you.
My name is Kaspar. I'm here on behalf of Global Partners Digital, and I'll be presenting a couple of initiatives that are related to this topic that I've been working on in the last couple of years. As Kasia mentioned, the entry point there is what you see on your screen. It is an initiative called Mapping Internet Governance, or NetgovMAP.org. And just to explain what this is about and how it came about, I want to kind of rewind and take a step back to an initiative that started in 2012, 2013, after a group of us who were working in international governance advocacy realized that there are so many different and parallel processes happening that we need to be following as advocates. And as you'll see, this is a bit of a, not the opposite type of approach, but a very different approach to what's the approach that the GIPO has presented. So it was a very, it was an user-driven initiative, very narrowly focused on internet governance. So I'll show you how we started, and in kind of going through our work, and this was actually developed like from actual need to understand what's going on if you want to impact policy decisions related to internet governance. So when we sat down, I remember there was this, we actually used a napkin to map out and to draw different processes and events that were taking place in internet governance. And at some point we said, like, okay, so couldn't we create this into a more visually appealing product that could be shared with others in the field who are working on similar issues? And what we came up with is a number of events and processes that we've in the end visualized in the PDF that you have on your screen now. If you can see this, I'm scrolling down and trying to make it a little bit smaller so you can see the visual. So what we've done is across 2 years, as you see here, this is the 2013, like across the first part of the map, then 2014, the second bit. It's a visual timeline of different events. So each of these boxes are a certain event that are organized across various processes that we thought are going to be relevant for our work. So in the first bucket, you see the UN processes, then you see processes related to the WSIS, there are processes related to the International Telecommunications Union, etc. And we've kind of added additional markers to help us understand what's going on, because there is already a lot of information there, and some of it is so some of it is darker. So the events that are darker are meant to kind of signify a greater relevance of a certain event or process. Like at the moment, that was the ITU Plenipotentiary Conference, for instance, is quite a big box. So were the annual IGFs compared to some of the national or regional processes. So yeah, so that's one example. And then once we did that, we kind of reached the end of 2014, and we realized that, I mean, in order to keep this up to date, we would need to do another project with another output. So we said, okay, how about we make this and try and make this interactive and put it in an online platform? And the next stage was working with a developer. And sorry, before I go into that, just like to give a shout to to Joanna Varon and Deborah Brown, who were working with me on the visualization that I'm talking about. And then we partnered up with a developer who said, okay, let me help you create this and put this on a more interactive platform where you could focus in on a certain event and see how it relates in one place at the same time, how it relates to different events. So what I'm showing you now is this kind of separate project that we did called the NetgovMAp, whereby you see the full range of all the different events and organizations involved in internet governance. And if you click on any one of those, this is the ITU for instance, you see all the different events that are in some way related to the ITU. You can do the same for ICANN, for instance. And we saw this as a step forward. However, because we didn't have actual funding to move this forward, the next step would have been actually to create filters whereby users could then say, could you show me information about events taking place in 2014 or 2015, or show me only this or that. So we didn't get to that point, unfortunately, which is why this is relatively useful, but not as useful as I think it could be had it been developed further. So in the last example that I want to show you that goes back to a more static approach, but is more issue-based and issue-driven. As part of the work that I've been doing with the Freedom Online and one of their working groups on cybersecurity, the working group members were quite keen on doing a visual timeline similar to this one on internet governance, but applying it to cybersecurity. So the working group members started collating data, which I'll show you in a second, and which eventually resulted in that you can see here.
Could you make it a little bit bigger, because we have received a remark from the audience that it's too small.
Is that better?
Perfect.
So yeah, I can do the same one for the previous. Sorry, on my screen it seems quite big. So the one, it's similar. So I'm taking place across the year this was this year, related to cybersecurity. And they were separated into different types of processes that we thought were relevant, and that kind of added a little bit more categorization to just a general review of events. We also looked at the UN events and separated those from IGF-related events, some technical standard setting bodies and other processes. So, and I'm just going to show you quickly the data. So, for this, it doesn't really matter how large it is, I don't think, but just to get a sense of what we found when we were working in the first project is that we weren't organized enough, and in order to make something sustainable, right, you want to have a back end where you can keep populating. And I think this will relate to what we're talking about with GIPO in terms of creating tags or creating keywords that could be transferable, and that would make this more interoperable, right? So if you look at the first example that I've showed you, the problem with that is that we had no data that could be shared. It's a PDF, and there is no database apart from like a few notes that we put together and kind of communicated to developers. But if you wanted to export that in any meaningful way, or use it and filter it, categorize it, curate it differently, you can't do that. So having a database was something that I guess perhaps some differences to point to. As I already said, this was a user-driven, kind of practitioner-driven product. So it was very much targeted to a specific objective that we were, and specific goal that we had as advocates, and trying to better understand the field. And that there was no automated data collection. Everything was absolutely manual, right? And then apart from that, so not only was it not automated, it was also very narrowly focused. So we have few data points rather than than looking at the whole field and then trying to narrow it down through filters, which I think we saw as something that could be the next step. So looking at what GIPO is doing, I think this is a kind of a great way. So if you could then focus in, a practitioner can then focus in through filters on a specific area that you're interested in. So if you had tagged for cybersecurity, you could just filter that element of the GIPO platform and look at what's going on in that issue area. That would be an update. And lastly, the big difference, I guess, is the focus on actors, which is not something that GIPO has at the moment, and I'd be happy to kind of discuss how that could be added or whether there's value in adding it. Our rationale for having actors was if you're an advocate and you want to affect a decision, you need to know where that decision is happening and who's making it in order to structure your advocacy efforts. So yeah, I'll stop there. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
We have one question from Daniel Dardier. Is there a way to express that a particular item paper is against or in support of a particular position? So also a way to express a policy statement. Example, the recent CIS draft 0 has a statement in favor of net neutrality without defining it. So I don't know to whom I should pass the question, maybe to Gabriele. Gabriele or Nia, would you be able to answer the question?
Hi.
Hello.
Yeah, can you?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. I had some problems here. Actually, I'm not able to answer that particular question. I have to be honest. Perhaps I'd like to understand more.
Okay, maybe I can give the voice to a person that asked the question. Daniel, would you like to explain a little bit more?
Yes, thank you. It was a question for Luis related to his presentation of internet governance data. There's a lot of metadata collected, and I was wondering if there is a metadata about the position that is taken by the paper. Sometimes it's obvious that the paper is in support of a particular policy statement. So the policy statement as well is something that would be interesting to have as a metadata, saying the paper is exploring or making a policy statement. Some papers are more defining a topic, and others are just referencing the topic and saying that they support some action about it. So I was wondering what level of metadata about the position that is taken by the paper. Sometimes it's obvious that the paper is in support of a particular policy statement. So the policy statement as well is something that would be interesting to have as a metadata, saying the paper is exploring or making a policy statement. Some papers are more defining a topic, and others are just referencing the topic and saying that they support some action about it. So I was wondering what level of metadata is going to be available in the data set, so that question like, what are the item or the paper or the memo in support of net neutrality legislation, for instance, or in support of open standard something, or so that was my first question.
Okay, hello. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So unfortunately, we do not do sentiment analysis That is what you are talking about. So we can collect and know about if a paper or a document or an article is talking about net neutrality, but we do not do any automatic analysis to extract some kind of hint of guessing if it's favoring the net neutrality or the contrary. Not currently, because that kind of sentiment analysis is
no, I understand. So I'm not asking that. I'm not asking that it be done automatically. I know that it's kind of impossible, but more that there is a possibility to store that. You know, people could review article and have just you know, comment to enter saying. A way to say this is in support of this kind of thing, people could add to the data set. I mean, you know, not programs. So.
Oh no, of course, human. Yes, human can add commentaries, and we could also have a specific field if we find it useful for that purpose, but. Given that it will be manual, totally manual.
I think that the idea is to have the field somewhere to store this kind of positioning, you know, in support or against something, or maybe a scale of value, I don't know, so that later on the same data set can be used and improved and enriched by human, you know, that review the paper, do analysis. So. But this is a kind of question that people would like to ask in the end on the data. You know, what are the papers talk about something, but what are the papers that are in support of something, which is very important. I understand it's more complicated. It's just I was asking if vision for that. Anyway, and my second question was related to the second presentation, and I'm not sure what is the state of the data set, and again, I see that there is a column or IETF category, but I think at this level, the category should be open standard rather than just IETF. Oui.
I understand that this is a suggestion to Luis as well. Daniel, because I hear some noise, so I'm gonna mute you for a minute and let Luis speak.
My second.
Yes, Daniel, would you like to add something?
Yes, my second question was for the second presenter.
Second presenter.
It was for Gabriele. No. It was not for Gabriele. It was for Leah.
Oh, hey, I think I was the third. Hi, guys. So I think I was the third. Sorry, I wasn't reacting because I wasn't sure anything about me, Danielle. So that's a very good point. In fact, when we were doing the later iteration, when we were applying these categories to cybersecurity, we decided to call it technical and standard setting bodies. And it was just technical, I think, in the beginning, but we decided to broaden that out. I don't think it was a. Or is that what you mean? If that's what you mean, that we've kind of broaden that out.
Yes, that's what I mean. In a sense, the header is correct. It's the technical, standard, and community, but the content is only one of them. So I think it's important to know that there are other organizations working on security, accessibility, privacy, all these internet governance topics.
Yeah, can't agree more, and this is where the feedback loop is important, so that the users and the actual practitioners get feedback into all of these processes. And if I just may add to that, the importance of the human element and the editorial element cannot be overstated. I know that GIPO is very much focused on the automated part of the really make this useful for practitioners. There needs to be, I think, an editorial, some sort of editorial input into the process.
Okay, thank you. I'll probably send an email to you or to the NetgovMAp contact on the site.
Okay, so thank you, Daniel. Let me check whether we have other questions. I see that one person raised a hand. This is Caroline Weiser. I don't know whether it was on purpose. So, Caroline, would you like to ask a question?
No, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay. No, I'm actually observing it. I think it's very interesting because I work currently at the cybersecurity capacity platform by the Global Cybersecurity Capacity Center at the August Martin School. It is very interesting. I think this one of the key. I think it was mentioned. But I think it's very crucial is the taxonomy, keywords, and I would like to hear more about what different perspectives on that, like how we can we cooperate and how can we evolve like a strategy which is kind of, or like a system which is sustainable, on the other hand flexible enough to react on the developments in the field.
Thank you, Karin. I think it's a general question to GIPO team. I'm not sure. Is this the question for Luis or not? I can just answer right now that we are in the middle of talking about common keywords to make the different initiatives more interoperable. And of course, we invite all the initiatives to cooperate and discuss it further. Maybe I can add, Caroline, of course, you're welcome to join the discussion, and maybe we're going to share some more details with you after the webinar.
Yeah.
If that's fine with you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me see whether there's one last question. I think it was coming from one of the participants that I don't see anymore, but the question was to Gabriele. Looking at the examples, it seems there is little new in the domain of text visualization. The best examples are quite old. Could you explain why?
I agree on that. It's very hard to find examples related to only taxonomies or categories in general. I don't know why. Perhaps the main focus at the moment is on quantitative data. So you can find plenty of examples that in some way handles this kind of information. And there is still an ongoing, I'd say, need for this kind of tools that can handle efficiently this kind of data, so non-quantitative data. And I believe in the next months there will be a lot of energies being put on this kind of visualization. I'm quite sure about it.
Thank you very much. From what I see, there's no other questions right now, and our time has also come to the end. So I would like to thank you all for participating in this webinar. If you have any further questions, don't hesitate to send us an email or to tweet about it using our hashtag GIPONet. I would also like to remind you that this is the 4th webinar of the webinar series. We also organize live workshops. The next live workshop is going to take place during IGF Forum in Brazil, but remote participation is going to be possible. Please feel free to join. All the details will be available on giponet.org. The workshop is going to take place on the 13th of November. So thank you very much for participation, and this webinar is officially over.